Everybody's working on improvement. Everybody's trying to get better, improve their costs, et cetera. So our challenge is really to do that better than our rivals. And as the pace of improvement in the industry increases, we need to raise our game as well. Maybe I can make that a little bit more vivid by repeating a story that I first heard about 10 or 12 years ago in the last big steel crisis. Two guys are camping in a jungle by the banks of a very wide river. It's a beautiful morning. They've gotten up to see the sunrise. They haven't even bothered to get dressed. They're still in their pajamas and stockings. They made some coffee. They're having some breakfast. It's a beautiful day. They're happy. It was a beautiful day. They're happy. They're happy. They're content. One of them looks up and says, "Is that a jaguar on the other side of the river?" They look up, and sure enough, there is a jaguar behind the trees on the other side of the river. It's a big jaguar. To their horror, as they watch, the jaguar jumps into the river and starts swimming towards them. So, of course, they immediately jump up, drop all the cups and plates and stuff like that. One of them scrambles over to the tent, starts frantically pulling his running shoes on. The other one is halfway up the bank and turns around and screams, "What are you doing? Are you out of your mind? You can't outrun a jaguar." And the reply is, "I don't have to outrun a jaguar. I just have to outrun you." So that's the environment we're in. There's jaguars around us. We're pulling on our running shoes. We're competing against other folks that are trying to do the same thing as us. Earlier today, Mr. Middle and David Clark described the strategy that ArcelorMittal is pursuing to make sure that we stay ahead of the pack. And I think this strategy, I hope, is good news to our operations here in Latin America, because many of these operations are located in regions that have the structural advantages that make them A businesses. The growth in the market structure, the factor endowment, all of these things contribute to these businesses being ones that we want to grow and develop. And in fact, we see that also in the strong performance of most of these operations, particularly in long products. So good structural fundamentals combined with consistent, strong performance represent a very formidable combination. Yet we also have to accept that our businesses in Latin America face many distinctive risks, and we just heard about that in the dialogue that the two economists went through with us just in the previous presentations. And on the flat side of the business, I think we've experienced those risks very recently and very intensely in our operations in Brazil. We certainly recovered very strongly from the global financial crisis, but things began to go sour for us in the second quarter of 2010. The strong real made us uncompetitive. Imports surged, attracted by the substantial Brazilian price premia and regional tax incentives. Competitors began battling for market share, and we shot ourselves in the foot also by announcing that we were going to be imposing price increases months ahead, which allowed people to confidently bring in imports. As a result, our EBITDA dropped from over $200 a ton in the first quarter of 2010 to around $75 per ton in the first quarter of 2011. Once results had deteriorated, they were very difficult to repair. When problems arose with the reline of the number one blast furnace in the second half of last year, our EBITDA fell to basically break even, which was a result that I think was unimaginable to most of us associated with the business. As you know, the results in our flat operations in Brazil improved significantly in 2013, reaching almost $150 per ton shipped for the first 3 quarters of this year. Many factors helped us on this front: the completion of the repairs of the blast furnace, the weaker real, and more favorable government trade policies, which we've actively been lobbying for. But in my view, the most important factor has been the initiative shown by Tubarão and its leadership to respond with an aggressive improvement program called 30 and 3, which was modeled on similar programs at Dofasco and that generated almost $80 million in benefits in just the first half of this year. Now, to me, that experience of the shocking decline in performance and the rapid improvement indicates some very valuable lessons for us. First, even if we're in general bullish about the long-term prospects for this region, we can't rely on this to ensure good returns. High prices and margins attract imports, and even as we build product and service barriers to strengthen our market position, this risk is real. On the flat side of the business, we commend our long colleagues for their good results and have sought to learn from that experience. But I think it's equally important for the long business to learn from the problems we wrestled with from 2010 to 2012 and to be prepared for the possibility of similar challenges. Second, we have to make sure that we maximize production and results from existing assets. Rapid growth in the region is far from certain, and high returns are far from assured. If we agree with those judgments, our safest, best investments are always going to be those that leverage existing equipment. At Tubarão, we're committed to pushing our hot mill to 4.6 million tons, and I can assure you that when we reach that goal, we'll certainly be talking about getting it to 5. In Mexico, we're committed to debottlenecking Las Truchas to support more DRI production and thus higher shipments. I think LCA has been equally creative in identifying ways to compensate for the delay in expanding Monlevade. Third, the third lesson, we have to make sure that we produce at the lowest possible cost, undertaking the kind of initiatives that Tubarão has pursued through its 30 and 3 program. Good current results are no excuse for not being as cost competitive as possible. Maximizing production at existing assets and minimizing costs are what the strategy folks call no regrets moves. They serve us well regardless of market conditions. If such steps aren't taken, though, operations will always be vulnerable to market surprises, as we learned 3 years ago at Tubarão. If such steps are not taken, your investment programs and proposals will always be subject to challenge on the grounds that market conditions are uncertain. One of my favorite business books is by Andrew Grove, the former CEO of Intel, which is now the world's leading producer of semiconductors. It's really more of an autobiography than a business text. It describes his childhood as a European refugee from World War II whose family moved to the States, his training as a physicist, and then his leadership of Intel. He was the key figure at Intel when they abandoned their core semiconductor business in the face of very intense competition from the Japanese to develop the random access memory chips that are the core of the personal computer and that really made the company what it is today. The title of that book is Only the Paranoid Survive. The message, though, is not one of fear and doubt, but rather of an intense desire to win and fierce competitiveness, informed by the recognition that market conditions can change quickly and completely, and that we need to be prepared both to respond and to capture the opportunities they represent. As a result of Grove's healthy paranoia and will to win, Intel has been for more than a generation the world leader in its industry. In my view, there's no reason why with a healthy dose, a small dose of paranoia, our operations in Latin America can't be the world leader within our industry. Certainly our physical assets are as good as any in the world on average. We have significant resource advantages from low-cost gas in Trinidad and Mexico to iron ore in Mexico and Brazil. And most importantly, the people in our Latin American operations, the people in this room, have technical skills and capabilities that are as good as any in our industry. If we have the best management team in our industry, as Mr. Middle always conveys, I think certainly we can look to this group here as being a very important part of that. Very often, the skills and capabilities that you all have are mobilized effectively through strong processes and leadership. I can recall, for example, the anomalies culture at Tubarão or the Eagle initiative at the application of PDCA at the Monlevade steel shop. These skills and these hard assets position you very well to benefit from the tremendous advantages that ArcelorMittal can add to the mix. You have access to the best benchmarking information in our industry. When the benchmarking process identifies plants from which you can learn, you have colleagues ready to share their experiences. You're supported by an outstanding R&D organization, as is indicated by our unmatched reputation in the critical automotive segment. You can build on a global customer platform that provides unmatched market intelligence and a distinctive value proposition. No other competitor in your region has those advantages. Finally, I've seen that you have the culture to put all these pieces together. And I base this comment primarily on my experience at Tubarão, but I trust that it applies more broadly. One of the strong threads in Tubarão's culture is an eagerness to learn and an openness to new ideas. I'll just cite one very recent example. The CMO Council has undertaken several audits of commercial organizations this year. And just about 2 months ago, this team visited Tubarão, focusing primarily on pricing practices. But the discussions that they had with the team here identified other areas, particularly market segmentation, profitability analysis, and marketing in general, where the Tubarão organization fell short of the best practices in our company. I say that not because I want to be critical of that team. I think Tuberau only entered the finished product market about 10 years ago, and it certainly had very strong results in a relatively stable market structure that maybe made those characteristics and those attributes, those capabilities, less important here. Nevertheless, what was Tuberau's response when this gap or opportunity was identified? Within a month, Gustavo had organized visits to Dofasco and FCE in order to gain direct exposure to those best practices and apply them here in Tuberau. So to me, this willingness to learn and improve, when combined with the hard and the soft assets that make up our Latin American operations and the knowledge base of ArcelorMittal, could provide a substantial and sustainable competitive advantage. If we can differentiate ourselves this way, and if market conditions in the region develop as we all hope, it's not unrealistic to anticipate EBITDA well above $3 billion for the operations represented here today. It's not unrealistic to anticipate clear leadership in value-added products and markets and an unmatched ability to attract, retain, and excite the best talent in our sector. It's not unrealistic to aspire to zero accidents. And it's not unrealistic to expect that if these goals are met, well-designed investment programs will be approved. I look forward tremendously to the next day and a half to the learning experiences that they represent, and I hope that in the future we can look back on this event as a milestone in our journey to those kinds of performance levels. Thank you.
We're going to complement that session next by inviting Benjamin and Jefferson to give their perspectives as well. Now, just before that, actually, Ricardo is going to present the findings of the pre-seminar questionnaire that you all completed. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. We've done that at the other segment seminars as well, and the results have always been very interesting, so I'm sure we will see the same here.
Works now? Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for answering the survey, and I'm go very quickly over the results. The first question is about the confidence in the steel industry in Latin America, and the majority of us are confident on the future of the steel business here in the region, and more important, they are more confident on the future of our company. So we are not only confident about the future of the industry, but more confident on the future of our company. That's a good sign. The future of our segment as well, the level of confidence is high on the segments, mining, flats and longs. Here we asked if we are probably coming back to the same level of results of 2008, and we see that half of us confident that it's possible, and 32% thinks it's kind of unlikely that we'll come back to these levels that were very high at that time. Here we asked about the sense of belonging, and majority feels that belongs to the group, some feel that belong to the segment, country level, business unit, or all levels. So it's kind of shows a little bit of the complexity of the organization. The sense of pride, it's high. People feel very proud about the company and our achievements. This is also very good. And here Mr. Mittal already showed these two graphs about the level of motivation and engagement. Here is how do we feel personally and how do we see our teams. So the level of engagement and motivation is quite high, not only between us, but between our teams. Here is a live performance evaluation, and how do we rate the leadership performance of our senior leaders, the board of directors and GMB levels. So we see that the evaluation is quite high, excellent and very good levels. And also the leadership performance of our senior leaders. our N+1 level, also a very good evaluation. And the last question is about our work-life balance. Here is a point of concern because despite of having a good evaluation, we have here a high percentage that feels that we should improve their work-life balance, and this is something that we should think about and establish some action plans. You also gave some contributions about strengths and weaknesses, and you'll use that contributions on the breakout groups after lunch. That's it, thank you.